Okay, very good. Thank you everyone for joining in on tonight's meeting. It is 6 o'clock. We do have a quorum, so I'm going to go ahead and start tonight's meeting. We'll begin with a roll call. First off, Karen Hall.
Present.
Ron Evans. Here. And Schofield. I don't know if Tony's out there or not. Tony, are you with us? Not yet, it sounds like. Denny Nielsen is excused, he's gone camping, and I'm, Tim Kirsch. So, thank you everyone that is here, with our board. I would ask that if anybody has a potential conflict of interest with anything on tonight's agenda, state for the record. If there's nothing that you recognize at this time, if something comes up later, be sure and make that announcement at that time. Does anybody have any announcements that they'd like to make? Nothing there? Public comment, this is the opportunity for public to speak to the sewer authority, to the board. Does anybody in the Zoom world have anything as far as public comment? Please raise your hand. I see nothing. So we will move right along then to, old business. We have a consent agenda on it with 2 items. May 6th Budget Committee summary notes and May 8th board meeting minutes. Does anybody on the board have any question or discussion on either of those 2 items? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion, we accept the consent agenda.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On to new business. Officer elections. Well, everybody raise your hand. What do we want to do here, folks? We want to continue on? Do we want to, anybody want to hold this? Anybody want this chair? Does anybody want the chair?
I'd like to nominate Henry as vice chair.
Uh-oh. I'm not sure who that had to be with.
No. Me, for saying that's. Yeah, it's not the first.
No. I think it would be appropriate.
Are you willing to serve as vice chair?
Sure.
I'll second that nomination. Are there any other nominations for vice chair? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That is simple. Ron, are you willing to continue your service? Does anybody want to try and arm wrestle it away from Ron?
No.
Your secretary.
If that's the case, then, I would, how should I say this? Not nominate you, but I guess nominate Ron to keep his position as treasurer.
I second.
Then moved and seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
I would like to nominate Mr. Hirsch as the chair. If he will so.
I'm not going anywhere this week, so. I can't do that. Moved and seconded, all in favor, say aye. Motion carries. Leaves,
I nominate her as a secretary.
I'll second that motion.
I don't even get a choice. Did anybody notice the railroad here?
You're the one left, the rest of us all have seats.
Yeah, what the heck? That's.
Been moved and seconded, all in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries, so. Pretty much the same slate of officers with the addition. He is vice chair.
Reaffirm Denny as the communication.
Oh, I nominate Denny as the communications chair. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. There we go.
I think that's been the quickest, hasn't it, Laura?
You're setting all kinds of records.
Good. Under new business, the Gates Connection Ordinance update. Who would like to enlighten the rest of us on?
The Gates City Council. And, go through the process and approve the ordinance. The ordinance has been approved, it just hasn't got a number assigned to it. Signature.
Nice. How the process go for? Smoothly?
Smoothly.
We had some comments from the public. We had questions, we had one particular area that's concerned about people. Generally, we also had people who understood the tax that the use is getting $20 million payment. He said we need to look at that side of it as well, so we had, in the end, everybody said.
Good.
Is that, they will be required to look up to read whether they have existing system. There will be some conditions for waiver in cases for on lots that aren't on right now, will not have to, but they will.
They won't be required as they build.
Yeah, before the bill. We would be able to find, as part of the build process. If people do get a waiver, when they change hands as far as ownership, part of that. So. That's the basic.
Yeah, we heard a lot of feedback on people not being able to afford it because it,
Mhm.
this now, there's a 12-acre lot out there for sale.
Mhm.
Potentially need a subdivision and the retired members of the community that live up
It's
there.
very.
I mean,
Very-
but ultimately, I mean, the connect doesn't change.
And I know you have a lot of people excited about it.
Yeah, we did.
Lots of people.
One thing that is different from Mill City is cities being a down system. Is so particular septic tanks being solved too. Or now they're just gonna be hooking up. I think they're gonna be almost less expensive. When they're going to build now.
New, yeah, one of the concerns is people are saying, well, there's a lot of people up there. Aren't living brand new biological, said $30,000 systems, and they said, well, what about, you know, we have to spend $30,000. You're gonna go in the trash. So they have been talking in here about possibly reimbursing some people if they had recent expenditures.
I cannot promise anything, but I think we can all look into programs that we. Chris, you might have something to say.
Yes, Mr. Chair, if I could address the board on that particular topic in regards to anybody who had to put in the system as a result of the fire. We still have the residential septic program going, as well as a commercial, but that doesn't really impact the Gates corridor. But, anybody who's had to put in one of those expensive systems and they take issue with it, we keep reminding them that they can get that fully reimbursed. And the reason for that was to relieve them of that cost as the sewers went in.
Wow, cool.
So if it was a result of the fire, it sounds like there is a program to address
So we
that.
need to
I
get.
remember hearing about it, and I thought there was a deadline. What was that? In the year.
The deadline's coming, but it's still open.
Okay, well, that's great. And you guys were able to work it out. There's controversy with most everything, so it sounds like you guys did well, so.
Great job.
Mill City,
And we have agreed to what it was before. And the portion of that, where you guys are massaging it for your side. The city, if ours hasn't changed, that will be a, we'll So we can say this is the same one we approved.
Very good, okay. That'll be good. Hopefully it all is very soon. Be taking a look at that. Middle East construction delivery agreement update. It's all in deliberations right now. We've sat down and talked with Marion County about some stuff that we would like to see in the agreement, and I think Marion County's looking it over now. I can't remember a list of anything in particular that we had in that, but just some stuff that we want to know to make sure that like a training program for the operators is going to be in there, and we want all this stuff in writing in the construction delivery agreement. Key elements like that will make sure that going forward, we're not just handed a project and say, here you go, run with it. So things like permits and stuff like that are going to be a key issue to the construction delivery agreement. So we'll have to make sure that we have all those things in place, or we know that they will be in place and transferable and close to things. We don't have a document yet. It's all just in negotiations right now with Marion County on construction delivery. So really about all I have on that. I see Peter's in the room, Peter Keller. We met with Keller and Associates and some folks from Marion County to talk about design and stuff like that. The treatment plan, everything from the buildings and construction elements are going to be hopefully to keep costs down and functionality optimal. Those are the things are going to be an ongoing discussions. Anybody have any questions on any of that? I don't know that I have any answers. Questions? If not, move to treasurer's report.
Right, the last month, we did receive a invoice from David Houston. It was, $9,000, $10,000, David Houston. And unfortunately, we got, I didn't get the calls invoice for May. And we feel if you had that value,
$10,277.
so with that, I mean, it's basically our, we spend. One thing I did notice is that, our Houston, we had $58,000 on them, so we have basically $80,000 to support them, so we have about $10,000 to support Cable Houston. And we're hoping we're asking for the next group of monies, 195 or whatever it turns out to be, will support the follow on.
The continuance so we can get all.
We still need to finish the agreement, but we still need to get a template intercity agreements on that. We still need to get the Marion County deliverable template agreements. There's a lot of work to do.
Okay. Questions for Ron on the treasurer's report? Staff report. Laura, your opportunity to shine.
Good afternoon. I'm gonna pause just for logistics. How's our sound sounding? Seems like complicated.
Stephen said he's having a hard time hearing when Juan speaks.
Just
Yeah.
So-
Yeah.
I carry the big stick.
The good news.
so, I'll go ahead and proceed with the with the report, for those listening in, on the previous item, Mr. Evans was, walking us through the report, which is in the packet and, was provided today and will be posted after this meeting. So, as you know, your staff has primarily been assisting you, through the budget process. Here today in a duly posted meeting, you did adopt your 24-25 budget. So congratulations, and you are through that process. We are also continuing to support the efforts that Mill City and the county are undergoing, as Chair Kirsch mentioned a minute ago, for the construction delivery agreement, playing a host and leader role, and coordinator role with you on that. Lastly, we are continuing to work with the county and interested parties, including downstream communities on a regulatory pathway for the Three Basin Rule amendment. Those conversations are going well. They're happening at the technical staff level at this time. COG is in coordination with the county preparing a communications toolkit, if you will, that will be presented to all of you and any other interested parties that explain the Three Basin Rule petition proposal that is not yet, petition isn't yet filed, but as the county will tell you, but it's, language is being discussed. And so the toolkit will include frequently asked questions about what is the Three Basin Rule, why is now a good time to update it? The short answer is the Supreme Court's decision in Maui is causing a federal law change, and because the Three Basin Rule is connected to that, they sort of go part and parcel. Frequently asked questions, example, letters of support that and testimonies of support that you as elected officials and that your bodies should adopt when requested. We're not quite there yet, but the county will let you know about that, but that is being prepared for you. And then lastly, we're continuing to meet with just county staff, Business Oregon, Regional Solutions Teams Coordinator, regarding all the funding sources and keeping our ear to the ground to make sure that when and if there's an opportunity for this body to support a funding request, we are able to act swiftly and promptly to do that, because we all know that the project could use a little extra funding for the Mill City gates and then obviously still for the Upper Canyon. I did prepare with our finance director a supplemental staff report. Talked with the chair, which I sent out earlier today, talked with the chair earlier. I'd like to go ahead and hold that till the end and let the county and our partners provide any update and then revisit that for the meeting. But I'll take questions on this part of it.
Any questions for Laura on any of this from the board? Anybody out in Zoom land have any questions for Laura? I don't see any. Okay. I don't see any questions for you. Very good, thank you. Then we'll move right along. We'll go to our campaign update.
You mean this could pull up your presentation?
I see.
Yes, I'm gonna go first and I'll go after. Pull up the warning group.
Closer to
Yes, ask for you like the speaker to say.
So they can hear you, so just gotta project into the
owl,
owl there, basically.
So we'll see the hot seat then.
or you can have it over here, whatever works.
We'll do better on this somewhere else.
Or
I think we should be.
just wherever you're comfortable and you can.
We know you can see it.
There you go.
We have the official hot seat. Yeah, so, afternoon, first I'll just go through, we've brought several people with me. I know you've met them both before. So first is Sige. She's an engineer that joined the county to help us on the project, so. Between myself, Brian, and Sige, we have 3 engineers on the project on the owner side, so we're very glad to have her. And that we bring in a wealth of technical expertise through our consultants, Keller and their subs as well. So Peter Olson has come back to give us a comprehensive project update. while you haven't seen him much in the last few meetings, they have been working very hard, and we'll talk through everything that they're doing. So before I turn it to Peter, I'll just give a brief update on some of the county's efforts to date. As Laura mentioned, we've been all kind of working through this process of permitting and dealing with that apparent tension between federal and state rules on how we would permit this. So there's not any specific asks at this point. It's still in process, kind of still being baked. But the intent is to, try to find a permitting process that will work not only for the proposed Mill City Gate system, but for Detroit and down as well. I noted on there, it's not just a cover all business that the Gates connection ordinance, so we observed that as well and are very happy to see that. We'll be incorporating that into the project. Detroit commercial septic update. There has been a great deal of outreach in the last month and consequently a lot of calls on my phone now, which is great. So we're starting to get hold of some additional property owners that we hadn't reached before because of we're building our contact list. So we've had a few more people apply. We will be changing consultants as Brandon is getting ready to retire and his protege will be taking the reins. So we're gonna try to time those new applicants with the new consultant who will take over. And then those ones that Brandon's been working on, our plan is to get all of those in for permits under review before he turns things over, so we have a clean break. And then all of the ones he's been working with for the past 6 months or so, our plan is to get them all permitted and ready to start shopping around for contractors. So some of those ones that are critical to Detroit, like the kind of centered around that downtown corridor, and a couple streets back, all of those, that central commercial core, we should have a good number of those going in for contracts in the next couple months. So those owners, and I know that we don't have Detroit representation here tonight, but just so that the board's aware, those owners following the grant program will go out and obtain their own contractors at their choice to come in and do the work, and then we will cut them a check so that it ends up costing them nothing. The consulting has been provided. We've provided survey in the cases where they needed it. We've gone out and done excavation and running cameras down lines, any inspections that were needed as part of that design, given them a septic design process. Sorry, a septic design and taken them through the permitting process. And we'll take care of the construction cost when it's done. So we're hoping to have a number of new functioning septic systems in Detroit.
So these are gonna be individual septic, not a common one.
Correct. Yes, each one will be individual. There are a couple cases where people have multiple lots, so we're simply combining the lots to make it work. It's the easiest permanent route. Funding update. So, to date, we've continued to kind of amalgamate all of these different funds where we can find them. You'll note that we show a total of 10.2 million in what we call kind of largely committed funds, where it's more than just a handshake. We've actually talked with agencies about how we can put those funds together. So that's our total amount that we've added to that initial $50 million grant. So those are, and right now they're in some sort of process of us just writing out the agreements. But we are confident enough in those to put pen to paper and say, we'll get this. So that brings our funding gap down a little bit more. We still acknowledge there's a substantial funding gap we're working on. But some of those smaller pots of money are faster, easier to get hold of. Sometimes the larger ask when we're going after 10 million or 20 million from one source takes a little bit longer. So if you recall, about 3 months ago, we told this board that we'll be going after multiple different avenues to try to close it. So this is the start of it.
So what about you think possibly that could happen now,
It's around 26 million, what we're
Still,
projecting.
okay.
Yeah. All subject to change depending on the design process, of course. So we'll still be getting real-time estimates as we go through the design process.
Perfect. Yes, thank you.
One more thing I wanted to mention before I turn the field over to Keller is, all the work in City of Gates right now. We are going all out with surveying and, some of the pre-design work that Keller's been doing. So I'll just take a beat to mention. We've had two types of interactions. One has been with our surveyors, and another was what we call utility locators, which is not part of our project, but it's required by law to call them in. The surveyors are pretty familiar with the project, know what's happening, and have contact info. I cannot get any of that out to locators. So I think some citizens have approached and might not be sure who they're talking to, and talk to locators, and a utility locator works for the gas company or the city or the power company, and they said, well, they, as usual, they don't know much about the project, so they don't comment. Don't be surprised if people approach them and they don't know much about it, because they'll take on, they'll have 30 or 40 projects in their backlog. The surveyors have my contact info, and they give that out to any citizens who have questions.
We've heard feedback about Thistle Down. People walking through. Unannounced, so that's good information that we can.
So the survey, the locators themselves are also have a very small distance they can go outside right of way. But mostly they're actually in right of way, and what we see is very common is people have their property up against a road that's been 20 feet wide for as long as they can remember. And nobody really knows that it's actually an 80-foot right of way. I don't know if that's what happened there, but this is very common in our line of work.
I think that's sort of the situation with this one now, with right of ways fairly extended past where the road is, so they can be in the right of way, people think they're on their own. Be a situation there.
It happens all the time with locators, and it's we try to smooth over the edges, but sometimes it's gonna happen. We're still doing more surveying in Gates. I think now we're starting to survey those private roads after notice has been posted. Surveyors actually reported some very good interactions, and they said some people gave them some thumbs up or something about the project. They were happy to get the sewer.
Nice.
Pass it on. So not much else to report. I'll let Peter talk about other aspects of the project ongoing. But I'll pause real quick if there's any questions for the county.
Questions from the board? Any questions out there in the Zoom world? Looks like you. See.
Well,
Peter, you're up.
well, thanks for having me. It's been a little while, and I always appreciate visiting and talking with the board. So, first of all, Chris has done a good job of explaining, kind of some of the interactions that Gates, and so I appreciate that. I wouldn't even add anything else. So, what I would like to present on is just kind of updated the project. There's a couple different focus points that we'll talk about. But really, you can think of the project, there's three projects in the big project right now, as far as design is concerned. And so we're looking at, we have the treatment plant, that treatment facility, which includes the disposal and all the utilities that need to come onto the site there. We have the force main that will take the raw wastewater from Gates. We'll pump it and transmit it all the way to the Mill City treatment plant. And then we have the City of Gates collection system. And the way we're dividing that up and conquering within our organization is we have kind of three different teams that are working on these different projects. And so you can imagine there's a lot, as Chris said, there's a lot of work happening behind the scenes, which as a board, you're not seeing that day to day, but just know that there's a lot of people, a lot of folks invested and working hard. So, first slide here, subsurface exploration. So this is an important component for the disposal of the treated and clean wastewater. When it's done, it'll be disposed of and let infiltrate into the ground. And GSI has done a great job of doing investigations and drilling and test pits, and we've done a lot of investigation so far. And what this does for us is a couple different things. I'll explain what it is, 50 foot by 50 foot. So it's a larger scale. It's not just a test pit. We're doing a 1 ring infiltrometer test. It's a larger scale, full scale, but it's a larger scale. It lets them to do, there's gonna be wells drilled right in the middle of the test pit or the pilot test basin. That will let them measure the mound. So the mound you see above the groundwater there, it lets them measure that real time as it's happening. The other important thing is it's a minimum 14-day test. So they start taking clean potable water into the pilot test area, and it'll infiltrate, and then they'll monitor it for 14 days, depending on what the result, if it's stabilized and they can measure it and they say it's not changing much, then they won't continue on, but they may do a longer 28-day test. And so the scope of work that we have for them allows for them to do that. That allows them to put a higher level of confidence for how long will this work. And so again, we're lowering risk and increasing confidence. One, for not necessarily us, I would say, but regulatory agency. So for the DEQ, this will allow us to be able to communicate to them with more specific data that they're going to be looking for. So, yeah, any questions on that before we move on? So if you see a fire hose out there and a lot of water, I think it's, I shouldn't say, but it's more than you'd see in a regular, I'd say the ring infiltrometer is a small 3-foot diameter basin, 50 feet by 50 feet. So I'm interested to go watch and see what it looks like.
So, real quick question, so it really won't fill up that? Because it will probably go into the ground as fast as you can pump it in.
If it's overflowing, then we have,
We got a problem.
we need to take a deeper look, right? So the idea is to not have it overflowing, but
The whole water.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, especially out there.
Okay.
Sampling efforts is, so GSI has gone out and at the request of the DEQ and our further investigations, as for the permitting process, we've gone out and tested, sampled and tested for nitrate, BOD, all these great things we can talk about and break those down if you want on what all those mean. I'm happy to do that, but really it's all the things that the DEQ is looking for, how well the water is going to be treated, what's there existing, so that when we put the treated effluent into there, how's it going to react? It helps GSI with their models. So they will be able to get more detailed and more robust model so that the DEQ and other interested parties will be pleased to see that. That's the idea, is to add more confidence again, higher confidence, lower risk. They tested also for PFAS. That's an item of concern for some of the interested parties when you look at environmental concerns and more specifically potable water intake for other systems downstream. So I don't have all the results from that. The PFAS, kind of the one more people are more interested in, we don't have results yet. So we need real labs to complete those testing. So more to come. Next, there we go. So this figure is an older rendering, so don't get too locked in on this one, but I'll show you the slide or two later. It'll show you a more current layout for the property that we're looking at for the treatment site. So the property acquisition efforts, they are moving forward. An offer was made on the 30th of April. In the 40-day, review period. I think what's the technical term? Review period. And so we're awaiting the counter offer, and then to begin negotiation. So it's exciting to be moving forward and at these stages. Unfortunately, that's all I can tell you at this point. So, Next one. All right, Mill City and Gates, both the preliminary site investigation activities. As I mentioned, there's a lot of activity happening, a lot of design, but we're also still, the way that this project is compressed, timeline, we're doing things a little out of the normal flow of work. We can do that. We're already doing design on the Gates collection system. We don't have survey yet. So you can add, there's additional challenges, but in order to make it all work and keep with the fast pace, it's what we need to do. And so we are getting, the survey was completed and the geotechnical investigation for the WPCF, the treatment plant site. Those two have been completed. But the environmental due diligence is still in progress. So we're wetland delineation, archaeological, those types of things. For Mill City Gates Force Main and the collection system, all three of those are still in progress. So they're out there working on it. That's the communication. Those are the interactions that we were talking about. I'm anxiously awaiting and excited to see all that come in and then kind of feed the design team what they need to really make some significant progress. But those all still to come. Next one. So this is the treatment plant design, which is more advanced than the Gates collection system and force main currently. Just as how the process is working with the permitting process, we need to be farther along. So they got started a lot earlier. Certain components of the project. We are well along. The preliminary engineering report says June 2024. That's now. So towards the end of this month, we're already communicating with the DEQ and we'll be submitting that engineering report, which is a significant milestone in the project to the DEQ. We've been communicating with their staff. That kind of greasing the cocks, letting them know it's coming. We also have other communication we've had with the DEQ more recently. It's the DEQ is, just so you're aware, this much interaction with the DEQ is a good thing, and they're doing their part, I feel. Others may have different perspectives, but I feel as a state agency, they are very much a partner working with us as the design group and permitting group. So that's a good thing to report. I think it's clear. The procurement already started last month, looking at the SBR process basin and the sand filters specifically. That is still open until the end of this week or next week. And so we're already looking at, procuring those materials and moving forward with some early work amendments with the CMDC contractors slated. They've been great to work with. There's a lot of work happening there, a lot of interaction with the manufacturers and contractors. And what that means is we're sending out bids, or not us, but Slade is sending out bid packages, and the manufacturers are saying, okay, we're gonna do this, and this is how much it's gonna cost. And so this is, again, a very compact process, and not typical, but I think we got a good team that's making it possible. So 30% design, looking towards July 2024, next month. You gotta remember that's next month. It's away. We're gonna hit that on track. We use the terminology. We've been calling GMP documents, but schedules have switched a little bit. So it's more of a 30%, and we're moving right on to 60% design, which we're targeting for January. Just had some coordination and communication with design team just last week, and with some adjustments from funding agency aspects hasn't slowed us down, and we're keeping the foot on the pedal to make sure we were doing everything we can to meet these very aggressive timelines. 90% last month next year. If that makes any sense. Starting construction, we said spring 2025. That depends on a lot of the parts and pieces and early work amendments. There's a lot of things that need to come together to make that happen. But that's the target. So this is the figure I was mentioning a slide or two ago. just to give you a little, what's up, and we have the 6, rapid filtration basins, kind of on the lower elevation part of the site, if you're familiar, with that. That's kind of the grade break at the bed ground. Putting the treatment plant, or siting that on the southern end, putting the new road kind of at the 90-degree angle as opposed to coming straight across the site here. So it's pretty exciting working on all the different components, a lot of discussions. We had a discussion last week, Mary, you're a part of that, of looking, discussing architectural, what kind of, building materials and things like that. So we're getting into the nitty gritty, right about now. We're starting to get into that. So, I think next slide. More. Sorry if I'm taking a little long. The Mill City Gates Force Main design. So this is City of Gates here, as you're probably well aware, right at the Marion County Bridge that crosses the river. The force main, instead of in the master plan and facilities planning study process, it's going to come out the west side of town and go along the north side of the river. So we've done away with that for a number of different reasons. And just property acquisition and permitting and so on. We did an evaluation and compared that north and south route and came up with this route along Gay School Road, Kingwood, and then connecting in over here with Fairview to the south end of the property where the treatment plant is going to be. We've been working on that. We've coordinated with the contractor to do that evaluation. We've been coordinating with Lynn County and are not seeing major stumbling blocks and issues. There is a bridge at Rock Creek that will hang the pipe on instead of going underneath the creek. Then we have a major culvert crossing at that location that we'll work with. We're anticipating the survey to let us know exactly how we're doing that. So there's still data to collect, but we have concepts, on how to navigate that put together, and now we're waiting for geotech and survey to come. I think next one, unless there's any questions. This figure will look familiar from the facilities planning study. It hasn't changed a whole lot. We don't have a survey yet. But as I mentioned, we've been evaluating identifying the areas that will require pressurized sewer lines. What that means is a grinder pump. So it's not a tank, it's a smaller, all it is a pump, and it just pumps it out up to the gravity system. So those are for properties, such as here where it's on the river. We can't gravity out of that, because those homes and structures are down at the lower part of those lower elevation of those properties. So we've done an initial evaluation of all those. We think we have it honed in on which ones they're going to be, but the survey will shed some more light on that and help us to correct that if there's any errors.
Where's the power going to come from for those pumps?
It will come from the home itself.
In past?
Am I gonna pay you? That's part of the discussion that,
Coming into a house and the load on a house and.
Yeah.
And, not having redundancy. In other words, if that house doesn't have a generator.
Yeah.
You're saying that pump goes out.
they need to not flush toilets. So there's some more discussion to be had on that. That's part of the design that we can talk some more about when it comes to that point. We're aware. I'll let you know that's the answer I can give you is we're aware of that.
Well, your central pump for that area there'll be a central pump for that, pumping out of that.
Not this area. They'll have individual grinder pumps out.
They'll all pump into one pipe and switch it out.
Correct.
It's interesting.
Tried and true. It's proven and works well. These lift stations, there's 3 lift stations, located in Gates that they will have backup generators of their own. And
Because the original design had a lift pump in it, and then would drive down there, and would get it out of that.
yeah, we did look at that, and this concept is, more, I won't say economical, more practical, that lift station for that small amount.
So every property on that loop, drive will have a strip.
Correct. We can talk more details about possibilities and options of power. But I don't know that we don't want to dive into those details with this. So I have thoughts and ideas, so, and happy to share that with you. I think we talked about the ordinance a couple times already. Next slide. Chris provided an update on the commercial septic reimbursement program. We have a couple different, statistics here, to share with you. Aqua Resource Design is Brandon, has done an excellent job. He's the reason he's the professional when it comes to septic system design. And the survey and environmental due diligence for the ODOT right away along there as well, to open up potentially for some of those properties to have some additional square footage for their drain fields. That's all still in the works, so. Next one. Detroit Canes Marina got a design concept that has been put together. It's instead of being for having a larger wet well on the southern end over here, that might be able to work into the future collection system concept for Detroit. We pulled back from that concept instead of 2,000-3,000 gallon tanks that will be located on the west end of the property, and a 1,500 gallon tank on the east end due to the contours and how the flow would work out. Each spot would have its own connection, so its own clean out that the users could connect to, and the marina itself and how they operate that is going to be left up to them, because that whether they're connected 24/7 and discharging their wastewater, it just creates more pumping out that they're going to have to do for those tanks. And so that operation and how they're going to handle that is something that they're going to have to take ownership of. It's been a topic of discussion, obviously. So we've got the initial cost estimate from the contractor. The county's reviewing that, and we're also getting the independent cost estimator to review that, which is that independent cost estimator is a third party that will also be reviewing the Gates and Mill City, larger cost estimate that will be coming down the line in the future.
Do you have any timeframes on that?
This?
Yeah.
We need to get it built before the season starts a year from now, essentially. And so it is quick, but it's more time than we thought we had.
Right.
The tanks are gonna be put in front of it. When they clean out the tanks up, through it.
They'll haul it, they'll pump it out, haul it. And, Mill City's new treatment plant could be receiving location for that. Any other questions? I think this is the last slide.
Yeah.
So, if there's any other questions, happy to. Yeah.
Just to echo something Peter said, in practice in other states, I can say that the level of interaction and support you get with the DEQ and other state agencies has been, I want everyone to know that they've been a huge asset.
Well, that is good, because their cooperation and what their interaction with them is crucial on this project. We all know that. So whatever they're able to do with you guys is certainly appreciated. And, obviously all the work you all are doing too.
Let them know that if you bump into one of them, so everybody likes to hear that.
Okay. Questions for Peter on anything from anybody? Any questions? Nothing. Nice, wow. Looking forward to,
You'll have future discussions on treasure funds.
all right. Thank you very much. I know that we have a little bit more on our agenda. If you so desire, but I don't think there's going to be any real questions for you. It'll all be for information purposes. So, welcome to stage, and we're gonna move right along with another document here. Okay.
Chair, I just realized that this is my mistake. I did not leave a place for DEQ or this to provide their, update. And so I see that everybody is here. And so, I apologize, Terry, I didn't get that on the agenda.
No, that's great. Yeah, Mary, do you have anything that you would like to share with us?
No, I'm just, Chris Imo and I work well together, and when Keller has questions, we try to be responsive and give them feedback. We are looking forward to having that pilot study done. As Peter mentioned, it's kind of a key component to give everybody confidence that the infiltration basins will work, and that there's time between when it gets into the groundwater and then moves towards the river. So yeah, so I think, everybody's working hard, and I think, the pieces are coming together, and, this summer we're going to make some good progress. And I anticipate that we'll get the first water pollution control facility when the groundwater report's done. So sometime this summer, and then we'll start working on it. So, and we did go in front of the Environmental Commission on another project in Blue River, which is in the McKenzie, another 3-basin project, and that was very successful. Now it's smaller; it's only 6,100 gallons per day, but still, they didn't really have any questions that we couldn't respond to, so that's a good sign. Because we'll be going in front of them for the water pollution control facility permit when it's drafted, and we've gone through a public process, and then we'll then go in front of the commission to see if they concur with our recommendations. So that's kind of the process for that permit. There'll be other permits needed, but they are pretty straightforward. They just need a 1,200C construction permit from DEQ. That doesn't take much time. And I haven't heard if we need any removal fill permits. I don't think we're impacting wetlands, but that permit could take a little bit if we are impacting wetlands and have to go through that removal fill process. So, are there any questions?
Questions for these two? I don't think so, Mary. We appreciate all the efforts that you guys are doing, the way that you are working with Marion County and Keller, obviously, to get this going, keeping it moving forward. Weaving all these different things together so we can get the timeline down is so crucial. So thank you very much for all your hard work.
You're welcome.
Is there anybody else out there that might have an update for us or anything they'd like to speak to? Oh, I don't see anybody. So with that, then Laura, if you'd like to
Yes.
present this.
Yes, so, let's see. So what you have before you is the supplemental staff report that proposes to frame amendment 2 to the IGA that NSSA currently has in Marion County. And I'm going to turn it over to Amber in just a minute here. Amber is our finance director, and I needed her help proposal together, and so she's going to be presenting this. But going back in time a little bit, you'll recall about this time last year, we were in conversation with Marion County Economic Development, so different departments and public works, about additional dollars this body would need to continue, its work. And at the time, we proposed an $80,000, figure for legal services and $195,000 for, continued continuity of services, from the original 150 that this body received. We have expended or nearly expended the $80,000 in legal services, and so it's an opportunity to revisit the 195 that we talked about this time last year. For budgeting purposes, the 195 was included in your 24-25 budget. Last week, Finance Executive Director Scott Dadson and our Community Development Director McCray Carmichael and myself sat down and put our heads together about what is the that they need for the next fiscal year and perhaps even through the end of 2025, the 2025 calendar year. So in this cover memo, you'll see that the figure is not 195 at this point, it's almost 300 or just over 300,000. And that is the result of some feedback that we've heard from you and just some process that we put together. So with that, I'll ask Amber to take it.
Great, thank you, Laura. In this proposal, you'll see, as Laura stated, the entire ask that we plan to offer for you to take to Marion County is $301,500. And that includes 4 critical changes. So it starts out with, in the table that's in the middle of this report, if you're following along on paper, we're still projecting $80,000 per project manager and support to that position. One of the key changes is an operator for $95,500. And as I hear from Laura, that position will become critical as you get closer and closer to the delivery of a system that person is training, onboarding, and offering feedback to the engineering team about anything that's coming along the way. And so that was added. Increasing legal services to $65,000 from the $30,000 that's in your current budget, and that's the anticipation of continued need for legal support. And then additional items are advocacy for funding and permitting. As you just heard from presentations today, there's still a need to seek more funding and advocate for the projects. To continue to inform the public and provide information all along the way, and that takes some resources, and then some additional fiscal support. We anticipate with the additional spending that NSSA is doing, you're going to hit a threshold to need to have a financial audit, or at least a short review process. And that requires a little bit more support. Want to make sure that there is staffing support to your treasurer to ensure that we can provide all of the reports that we needed for that to go forward, and to accommodate the additional funding if it comes in for all this project work that may, in some cases, pass through the board's oversight. So those are the 4 key changes. Then we're still maintaining the amount for dues and LMI and maintaining the contingency at $63,500 because that was based on your operating budget, your 3 months requirement, it's in your financial policies to go forward. And so as you go through this report, these are all outlined in more detail in a narrative format. So I think I'll pause there and see if there are any questions.
So I know that the operator one, the significant. In this, the numbers on it. We don't know for sure yet, how we're going to do that. This is there. Just in case that's the road we go down.
Yes, so that figure is an estimate that was developed off of some average costs that we've seen for operator positions, advertised recently. We do some comparables in the region. Well, I should say not just COGS region, but also Lynn County's region, because of this, the way that this system is centralized across both areas. The amount is truly an estimate.
Right.
You don't know what you're going to get until you try to recruit, and then you have some back and forth that usually takes place in that process. But the idea being that we understand the ratepayers The future ratepayers don't currently have rates in order to generate revenue, to generate the amount of money needed for an operator. And so this is part of the ask to Marion County, is because we know that there isn't money just kind of sitting in someone's reserves waiting to.
Right, so let them know that this is potential that could be coming. I see, I know the time is going by fast, but this position probably wouldn't come online until closer to the early in 2026, I wouldn't think. I don't know how fast we're moving with the project and stuff.
And I think that's more that this ask would cover not only through the end of the fiscal year, but may slide into the following fiscal year and carry over, is because not all of the timelines are in concrete.
Right, well, that's, it is right now. That's what makes it so whole bit more difficult, I would say.
Consider, because sooner or later, what you're gonna do is come up with some organization that's gonna manage that and someone. It's got someone has to.
I've seen it go to numerous different ways so far.
Whatever the entity
Right,
ends up being tasked with maintaining the infrastructure.
mm-hmm,
This, I would think that this would be used to start them. Whether it be, I would say operations center operator, because there's an infrastructure. Security software, they have to get managing it, they have to get, maintenance people onboarded from here with.
I mean, it negatively, obviously, I'm just trying to wrap my head around all these things coming down those. Make sure we're ready for them, so. Appreciate the looking into the future of this. We can ask and get everybody on board. Support, that's obviously a better deal for us. Okay. I was just curious about that, because we're gonna turn around and it is gonna be the spring. Right? Yeah. Okay. Questions?
I appreciate the position with the timeframe specific. The training and while they're doing the final work, plan, the person can be involved and see what's going on too. Depending on how it is and who it is that plans with. I think that would be kind of an intimate part for
Mhm.
a brand new facility.
Okay. Questions, comments? April?
Would you have
What
more
else?
to add?
Oh,
I think
that's-
it asked that we would propose for you to, authorize Laura to present to Marion County on your behalf, and hope that they, agree to this, and if not, if there's some negotiations, you can negotiate.
I love it. We need it. I mean, just even if even as a contingency, so if for whatever reason, America and also even the lottery or Gatesman's lottery, we could just turn it back over.
Absolutely. Okay. I'm liking it.
We're chugging. I was thinking, how many lottery tickets can you see like?
Yeah. Well, I'll dedicate my whole salary, annual city salary.
I believe that too.
Yeah, you did good.
You're.
Set that up as a line item of support. We split it.
Go forth and negotiate with, Mr. Buckley, who already emailed me this afternoon on my drive up to the canyon saying, let's talk tomorrow. So I said, what I'm hearing from the board, is just sort of go forth and negotiate, and we'll bring that back for your consideration.
I think that is our consensus.
Thank you for that ahead.
Pass the motion to you.
You certainly can if you'd like. At this point, all I'm hearing is go negotiate.
I would say consensus will get it moving forward. Okay, if we did something. motion match, yeah. All right. Unless somebody else has something to add to tonight's agenda. I think we're moving along nicely. And I appreciate everybody coming out. So no hands up out there in Zoom land. So we're gonna go ahead and close tonight's meeting. Thank you everyone for coming out. I think nothing I need to add.